7 o'clock, we will call the meeting for regular planning commission meeting of June 6th. All rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Delkey. Here. Henderson here. Shaw.
Here.
Grand.
Here.
Rumble. Here. Patterson.
Here. Okay, approval of the agenda for the May 2nd, for tonight's meeting, so we can do minutes of May 2nd.
I make a motion to pass the agenda for tonight's meeting,
I'll-
June 6th, 2022.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now the approval of meeting minutes for the May 2nd planning commission meeting.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 2nd
Support.
as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I don't think we have public comment tonight, so we can bypass that section. All right, now we are on assigning addresses to 2 lots on Fulton Street. This is the ones down there by the bridge, right?
North.
North of Spencer, on the north side of North.
Well, north of the bridge.
Right. I honestly don't, Ben did this one time while I was here.
Well, and truly, what this map shows you is the addresses before and after. There isn't a whole lot of rhyme or reason. We just have to make those 2 new addresses
Within the,
go between those other.
okay.
Excuse me.
They just have to be even.
630, 650.
Yeah, they got a big gap in there.
Well, if you
Yeah.
take the gap between 74610 and 80, that's 70 numbers, divide that by 4, your next, looking at about increments of 20. I don't know how picky what do you, is
There's
there a
no
rhyme?
more property, they can't add.
Yeah, they're not gonna fit any more in there.
Like 28, 74628 would be,
Okay, we agreed?
Honestly, I would say to go with the 630 and the 650.
Right,
You have 520,
going up.
570,
Yeah.
610.
they all end in
Right.
0.
Right.
But whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah,
So,
30 and
everybody's
50
all
works
right with
too.
7, 4, 6, 20,
No, 30.
30,
74630.
and 7, 4, 6, 50.
Sounds good.
So we need to
Okay,
do
we
them
need a-
as either one motion that lists both parcel IDs with the assigned address, or you can do them as 2
One
separate
at a time.
motions.
Okay. Either way, we're looking for a motion for those address numbers.
Well, I threw the numbers out, so I'll make the motion. So, if I understood the way you worded it correctly, I'd like to make a motion to assign addresses to lot number 02-24-101-037
As,
as 74630 Fulton.
Yep.
And lot number 02-24-101-036 to be renamed address 74650 Fulton.
perfect.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Wonderful, that was fun.
Wunderbar.
Okay, now we have the unique sign application for the Armada jams.
Now, we should allow that.
You might want to explain it for the 2 that weren't here when we did the sign ordinance.
This is for hanging the banners
Correct.
on the back part of the fencing during most of the summer.
The dates are in there,
Right,
June 10th through the 19th
so yeah.
of August.
Almost all of the summer.
Yeah,
But it's to give their supporters, a little bit of coverage along that back fence line.
And your normal sign ordinance does not allow that many signs on any one parcel. So because of Armada jams all those years ago, when we changed the sign ordinance, we did a special section for special community-friendly events that you could request to have exceptions to those ordinances, but if you read the sign ordinance, it's near the end that you have to state where they're gonna be, how long they're gonna be, what they're gonna be, and why they're up there.
So, and as you can see, they've already brought this before village council, they're just looking for.
It's
our
on village
approval.
property, so village council had to give them permission.
Right.
So village council gave them permission.
And I
We have
think
to have a
it's,
vote.
You do have to have a vote, yes.
we have to have a vote here.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I can make the motion if you'd like.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion for application for unique signage permit for the Armada Jams banner in the park.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I guess I never realized seeing those every year that was a special sign.
Yeah, when we get to
Under
section
permit.
13, the signs, I'll, go over a little more, but it's the very last part, so.
Mhm.
It allows, we couldn't be telling other people your sign's too big for your property or your sign's up too long, because the temporary sign's only allowed 45 days in any calendar year.
Gotcha, because it's all
And-
summer.
Correct, those signs are up for 2 months, and it's not a do as they say, do it not as they do kind of thing, so we had to kind of put that in there.
Okay, we are on to the beekeeping. Did everybody get a chance to kind of look through websites and check out what was out there? There's not a whole lot, from what I could find, of specifications. Each municipality makes their own decision on things like beekeeping. Couple of things that I did find. One of the biggest warnings that it didn't even, bee stings are the first things that you think of, obviously. But the thing that I didn't really think about ahead of time was, every one of these websites specifically demand that you notify anyone living in the area, in the vicinity of your home, in the beehive, for allergies.
Mhm.
So it's very important to not only consider this person's home and their beehive, but you have to think about where they're putting it and the people that are gonna be around them.
Right.
I talked to a couple of people who keep bees,
Mhm.
and they both said they didn't think it would be a problem in the subdivision. They both said that they've had experience with that, and the neighbors didn't even know that they had bees. They said that the bees come out, they fly like parallel to the ground at whatever their beehive height is for 4 or 5 feet, and then they go up and they're gone. So the only trouble that you might have is that they need access to water. Once they find a source of water, they stay with that source of water. So if you have a pool next door to a beehive, you have to provide water that they're gonna go to rather than pool. So, and as a person who's allergic, I think that it's important that we have rules, but it's also important that we don't just shut it down. That, I would like to see us find a way to make it work. I mean, I have an EpiPen, I know what my limits are, and, you know, someone who's allergic to this stuff knows what to do. You don't
Right.
need to tell me there's bees next door, I already am protected.
You do, though, also have to think about those that don't know that they're allergic to bees till that first time they get stung.
Right, well, that's
So-
true.
Or worse, yeah, don't know how to use an EpiPen.
Are they what?
Or worse, yeah, don't know how to use an EpiPen.
Well, yeah.
Or if it expired, a friend of mine, Gary Computer's, lost his son because it was
Yeah.
expired.
Mm.
Expired EpiPen. He was like
These are things
19.
that make teachers scream. So scary.
So, and I agree with Sam, that we should try and figure out, not just across the board shut it down,
Right.
but
Fine.
put some kind of parameters, and it might take some
Well,
more
that's-
research to put the parameters on, whether it's the
What
size
I feel.
area, or how far it has to be kept from a lot line, or your neighbors, or, like Sam said, water's a very important thing, so make that a requirement. You must keep a sufficient source of water, those kinds of things, which would require a lot more research of beekeepers.
Right.
Especially in the environment where everybody's going to more natural and.
No mow Bay.
Yeah. So,
Sometimes they swarm. I was a letter carrying the shores, and a guy he was a beekeeper on my route.
Yeah,
And they would swarm, and the neighbors would get upset because the bees would take off.
right, that's
Somebody's-
another thing.
He'd
to
have to go and
describe.
get them and bring them back to the hives.
Right.
so that's what I mean,
So they do
that might
swarm.
require the more
You
research
really have
on,
to understand
or,
the temperament.
you know, put something in the ordinance that says if you have more than, you know, X complaints in a 6-month period, then you may be asked to get rid of them.
Right.
You know, that kind of, put some kind
Some
of.
language and
Yeah,
verbiage.
just, so I truly agree that it might be something that, you know, just needs a little more research, and everything I found is like Christy said, every city has their own
Yeah.
rules. So maybe find out what some of them are.
So I couldn't determine from the stuff that you gave us whether or not, like if we just said, we don't really, we defer to whoever these were, I can't recall right offhand, the DNR or whatever.
Right.
Then, like if up to a quarter acre, I was looking for how many lots do we have that are quarter, or how many, you know, that information doesn't exist, so, up to 2 colonies. But then this one says, if all hives are situated at least 200 feet in any direction from all property lines.
Yeah, but 200 feet, most of your
We can't
property.
do that, yeah.
Correct. Most of your
Well,
lots aren't that
I
wide.
found on beekeeping for newbies. And that's what, because I was specifically looking for the distances from your home, from your
In a
neighbor's home.
subdivision setting, yeah.
Right, and there's not a whole lot of information out there. The one that I did find says, regarding how far away your bees should be placed from cities, urbanizations, public establishments, is 440 yards. There's no way we'll make it.
No.
That's
but
like
what about,
football fields.
like, is there the back of the DPW yard, or is there the back of a park
Or
or
they're
something?
in the village lots.
That's a community space that we could designate as, and that would be well posted.
Someone
and-
would have to be there though constantly, like Mike was just talking about with the swarming, you know, if you just all of a sudden, they have a temperament
Is that- I'm
change
just wondering,
and
is
swarm.
that a viable alternative to individual yards if there was like a community beekeeping place? No?
I thought the initial request was for an individual
Somebody,
property.
well, it was, that's where the first phone call came in. And I've called her several times to tell her it's still a discussion. You know, as it's written, it's not allowed, but it's not a done discussion yet. The only problem I see with that is most of the powers that be would probably argue who's gonna take care of it, who's gonna maintain
Yes.
the property, it's village. If somebody gets stung, are we liable because it's our,
Mhm.
that's
Yes.
where I see that going.
I wonder if homeowners insurance companies would weigh in on this, because you know how some villages have a pit bull ordinance, but it doesn't really matter because you can go to State Farm or whoever your insurance carrier is and they'll
And
tell
they're
you
not
you
gonna-
can't have
Yeah,
one.
right, they're not gonna cover
I
you.
wonder how homeowners insurances who stand to be the
That's what I'm
liable
thinking.
ones would feel about an average homeowner. Maybe it's excluded in homeowners insurance policies about beekeeping
I don't
in
know.
suburban areas.
That's
That's an idea too.
an avenue to look at that, you
Yeah,
know.
because it is a huge liability, and as somebody who's had small children and dogs, and if I moved into a new home in the village and I found out my neighbors on the other side of the fence were keeping a bee swarm, I would be very turned off by that. I'd be nervous, uncomfortable, worried about it, you know.
The other boundary lines that I found were rural housing and livestock facilities. You should be 110 yards away from that. Motorways, main roads, 220 yards. Country roads, which obviously we don't, well, you can probably consider our main roads as country roads out here.
At
They're
least
not
your
that
local
busy.
ones.
Right, is 55 yards, but also other beekeeping settlements or colonies. They need to be 550 yards away from each other.
So-
Yeah, but-
How do you have it and tell your neighbor they can't? So,
Right.
It
yeah.
sounds like we don't, under any circumstances, have very many village lots that would even, this would apply to. We don't
Right.
have the space for it to be safe in most I can't think of a single one, maybe over here.
Well, I truly think that somebody, or we should all, you know, pick two communities to call
Yeah, let's do that.
to
Yeah.
see what, if they have one, and, you know,
What are the pros and cons?
what is it, what have they gotten, good stuff, bad stuff, you know?
Yeah, they have boundaries
I
set
can
up.
call my brother, he's an insurance agent for Lindy Insurance and see what
So
he's.
call him,
See
see
what
what he
he
says,
says.
see if, you know, if they have
Yeah.
anything that way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking that was a good
I'll
idea.
call.
Yeah, all right, so,
Who wants to call who?
yeah, I'll call, who do I call?
Just pick a couple, pick any, I'd go big cities as well as.
I wanna look
Reading,
for somebody who
Bruce,
has
Richmond.
beekeeping allowed and just see
I
how
don't
that
think it would
looks.
go with Berlin though. They have a lot bigger size lots than we do in the
Well,
majority of
It
the
doesn't
area.
necessarily have to be.
You could go Ferndale if they allow it, I wanna just see
That's
what
what
a
I- that's what I
community
mean.
who
Let's
does
go even
it,
to-
writes it like.
Well, and Ferndale
yeah.
and Royal Oak are very much so more
I know
on the,
Detroit just has started an urban beekeeping.
so.
How are the people that are
call,
doing
you
it
know?
in neighborhoods doing it
I'll-
safely?
I'll
That
call
would be worth
Detroit and
finding
see what
out.
I can
Yeah.
find.
Even if you, so call Ferndale.
I'll
You
fi-
know,
yeah.
Pick a Richmond or Lapeer,
Yeah, I was
Emily
gonna say Richmond or
City.
Almont.
You get in 3 counties, go Tri-County, Macomb, St.
Yeah.
Clair,
Even,
and
but
see
even
what they're all
call,
doing.
you know, bigger cities, Sterling Heights or.
I'll
you know,
Find out as much as we
I'll
can
call
about
Detroit
cities.
and Sterling Heights.
I'll
That's
go
what
Ferndale and maybe I'll pick another random location if I can find one that allows it.
I'll call Macomb Township because that's where I live and I'd just like to know.
See what's out there.
Well,
Right,
Macomb
I'm in
Township would be a
Richmond
good
daily,
one,
so I can
because they've
stop
got
by
big
up there.
properties and small
And small
properties.
properties.
They'd have
Much
ones.
longer.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean though, you've got acreage available
Yeah,
and also many small lots
So
where
do
they might have
do
both.
they allow it in the big ones but not in the little?
If you have
ones?
minimum space requirements, which seems like the most reasonable thing to do according to responsible beekeeping, I would imagine they do, but it's interesting, because bees are like, not like chickens where they're like pretty grounded. How do you keep something contained that flies?
And truly, bees just tend to scare people.
Yeah.
They're, of them by themselves, they're not a scary insect, but people are just, you know, I have, my whole yard is made to attract hummingbirds. So if I attract hummingbirds, I attract butterflies and bees. And I'll sit on my patio at any given time, there's 15 or 20 bees, but they stay where they are and I stay where I am. So, and beehives tend to, if you don't disturb them, don't bother them coming out of their hive or going back into their, they tend to
Right.
not bother you.
And
They're
people
not
keeping
their
them,
interest.
their heart is in the right place. They want, the bees are, it's a very important part of our ecosystem to have thriving
Yes.
bee populations.
Yes.
I don't not get it, but I
Be
share.
And that was
Interesting.
one of the things that the websites that I looked at too was with the, you know, when you're going to your neighbors and explaining to your neighbors, one of the things that you want to talk to them about is how well, you know, your flowers will be, your gardening can be
Right,
with bees right next door.
better pollinators. Yeah.
But I did learn some interesting facts in reading about this. I didn't know about the water. I didn't read about that one, so that was nice that Sam brought it up. But I did find it says, do not eat bananas. The scent of the banana is similar to the alarm scent that bees produce.
That's so sweet, it'll make them go crazy over the
Yeah.
way you smell. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
So
Oh.
it'll set them into a frenzy. It says
that's funny.
Oh,
with the smell of bananas. So.
Mm-hmm.
Learned new things while we were going through and reading all this stuff. It was kind of neat. But yeah, if you'll let the homeowner know that we are still looking into this,
Okay.
and everybody call your communities and the insurance agency, and we'll go from there. Okay, zoning ordinance review. Did anybody have anything else with the bees before I move forward? All right. Zoning ordinance reviews, we're gonna do sections 1 and 2. Did everybody get a chance to look over the planners? We all feel that we're good to go with that. It's ready to be set for print.
let's see here. Yeah, my only comment on this is that, it's one space between sentences, not two.
Right.
They'll go through and do all their grammar conforming and all that after.
You mean one space with the periods?
Yeah, between sentences.
That's such a recent change, I feel like I allow both.
Well, but not just that, they're also going to space it so it takes up most of the line. It's more
Right.
the-
You gotta widen your margin,
Justify.
yeah.
Yeah,
Justify
it's
it,
gonna
so it's called,
justify
yeah.
it, so it's truly, you're gonna have spots where you have 3 spaces between 2 words.
And then bigger
So,
gaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I find myself doing both 1 space and 2 spaces, just depends on how big a herd I'm in.
When I learned keyboarding, it was 2 spaces, so I have a hard time skipping it, but you're right, they did reduce it to 1 space now.
Does anybody else got anything on 1 and 2?
On two, my, Is that a reminder that the zoning map is not current? It's not signed? On the online one, the ordinance says it should be signed, it's
Oh.
not signed.
Okay.
And it's not current anyways, because it's, the one online doesn't have Duncan in it yet.
It doesn't, right? it
They
doesn't-
know
that
that they
needs
have
to
to
be
update,
updated.
yes.
Okay, that's part of the process?
Yeah, when they, one of my requirements was that where it says insert map here, there's gonna be a map. Where this ordinance didn't have any maps in there. So they will have to supply those maps so we can, approve or not approve them before they do that
Yeah,
anyways.
okay, good.
So, yeah, anything that's gonna go in the new books has to be approved.
Do we have to vote that we are ready for 1 and 2, or
No,
we're just good?
You're just good.
Okay, so 1 and 2 we're good on. Now, 3 obviously was the blank. When we did sections 4 and 5, Becky was not able to make the meeting, so she does have a few questions and comments that she'd like to put in.
Just comments to things that were brought up at the meeting. I did correct with the planner, but she didn't get them back to me yet, where they hadn't eliminated the top 3 items under animal and agricultural uses, because she didn't understand my notes. So I did
Okay.
get that back to her, that we wanted actually the first 4 things to be deleted, because we don't have enough spaces to allow those items.
Right.
One of the comments that was made during the meeting was that some of the spaces on the right are blank. Those spaces are blank. Those spaces are only if there's special circumstances or special things that you have to, more rules than just that it's allowed in that section. And everything doesn't have an additional section in section 6 to refer to for all of those things. So some of those things are going to stay blank.
Okay.
Under residential, you guys had commented and we had discussed the 2-family or duplex dwellings being permitted or special approval in R1. 6.209 is where they're gonna put in that it's allowed on the main street or on the corner. It's not gonna be here anywhere, but in the supplemental use standards, that's where it's gonna be mentioned, that it's special approval in R1, except on a main street or on a corner. When we got to commercial uses, there was some confusion because one of the, bless you.
Thank you.
One of the very close to the end of commercial is automobile, truck, and other motor vehicle repair stations for major repair. In the conversation that was had here, we thought it was deleted, but it's not. She just moved it up right, I'm sorry, that's an industrial. She moved it up by the other auto repair, wherever the other repair was. Where's the other auto? Oh, it's under commercial. She moved that up under minor repair, so it's still in your ordinance that way. It's the same way. We didn't take anything out of there. She just relocated, so minor auto repair and major auto repair were one on top of the other.
Oh, I see.
We did, however, ask under commercial that under the manufacture of artificial flowers, ornaments, awnings, tents, bags, cleanings, all of that, all the way down to material, bicycles, shoes, caskets, brick, clay, glass, shale, tile, terracotta products. We did ask that to be taken out because that's all heavy industrial and we didn't want anything heavy industrial in the village. So that whole part of that manufacture was supposed to be deleted. She did
Oh
not.
yeah, they only took out the brick.
She took out the brick and that was it.
Right.
So,
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
oh, I'm sorry, 4.7 in the book, Sam.
Oh, I got it.
Under light industrial on the bottom there. So like the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th bullet point,
I see it. Yeah.
that whole part's supposed to be deleted because that's all, we considered that heavy industrial.
Okay, right, I see.
The self-storage warehouses, we had asked no hazardous materials or chemicals, we could limit what would be stored there. That would also be part of that supplemental uses standards that we'll have to check
Over
to
in the
make sure
section.
those things got added into that section.
Okay.
So that's 6.619. And that was all I had for section 4. She's supposed to get that back to me anytime. As soon as she does, I'll forward it to you guys and so we can go through it. I'm sure there might be something yet again before it's ready for print, but she'll get me that and 5, 6, and 7.
Okay.
I gave them all to her just like a week ago because I was waiting to watch the meeting that you guys had.
Anybody else got anything on 4? I know we already went over all of this, but let's just make sure we're all set. Everybody agrees with what Becky's gonna have added for the planner? Okay. I think we could go ahead and move on to 8. You were here for all the rest of it, weren't you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I did have one thing that the planner asked me in an email. Couple of the things that we said define, like reoccupancy or occupancy.
Mhm.
Her question to me was, did we want the definition in that section or just in the definitions? Her suggestion was to put a hyperlink for anything that's online to where the definition would be in the back, but not to include it in section 1, but know that it's in the definitions. So anything like reoccupancy or occupancy, or where we said vacant for length of time, that would be back in the definitions, but a hyperlink would be there if that's what we chose. But it doesn't matter to me. To me, it's out of place if I have some definitions in the,
Right,
But-
some in there and some not.
but I will say at the
Yeah.
same time, I have notes later on that there's sometimes that you might want to just put a definition so there's no question. So I didn't want to answer her. I told her I'd ask all of you guys. If we say all the definitions are in the back, then they're all in the back and that's fine.
Right.
Well, how will the hyperlink be worded exactly?
That part I don't know specifically, or where it says occupancy or reoccupancy, it could say see definition section blah blah, and there would be a hyperlink.
Yeah, I like that.
Because, I was gonna say, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can have it just like that. Click on it, boom, done.
Correct.
And
As
then
long as you're online.
Right, if you're online. If you're in the
Well,
book, you can't. You
yeah,
have to go
flip-
to the section
flip
in the
there.
book.
but the hyperlink still
Technically,
appears as
yeah.
text.
Correct.
Technically, you can, because if it's in the same file, it should go to that same point.
But not in the printed
Not
book.
if you
it
have a
would.
hard-
Oh, the printed book, you're correct, yeah.
Right, but
Correct.
if you're looking at it correct, it would online if they
Yeah.
went there.
So if
So,
the text says see definition on page or whatever the
Yeah.
hyperlink says, that
section
would work.
25.
Ask her how she plans on
Actually, that's
using,
even better.
well, because there's 2 ways to do a hyperlink. You can do the text in parentheses, that's a link, it says here's where it is, or you can actually just hyperlink a word, in which case it's only usable if you're looking at the
I see.
document online. So ask her how she plans on formatting that
Say
hyperlink.
that again, it's only usable if it's on.
So if you have a hyperlink, you can
Once
just,
yeah.
is she gonna structure it like in parentheses, like here's where you need to look for that definition and click that text, or is it gonna be the word itself hyperlinked as a
Right.
definition? That would
that's
make a
good.
difference, but I like the idea of it being hyperlinked
I think it makes it cleaner.
in its own text. That way, if you're reading it on a paper, you would clearly see it needs to go to.
Because then if
define
anybody
something.
that says, what's the definition of? Well, all our definitions are back here in section 25
Right.
or
Mhm.
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll ask her the format she'd use for that.
Okay, Article 8, everybody get a chance to go over that, see anything that you want to make comments on tonight?
I just have a couple of high-level comments, because, like, for, maybe I'm just not understanding it right. What number is this? 8.101 fences, you go all the way over to D. I think that's the first time I saw it. It talks about the identification in the second sentence, most of the way over, identification of damage or illegal fence, the building inspector shall order the property owner, and I'm wondering if that would be.
Where are you at?
It's page 8-3.
Oh, I see, got it,
D.
never mind, yep.
Would that be code enforcer at that point?
In this case, it was, yeah, now it is, once it's up, it goes to the code enforcement.
Yeah, so-
Yes,
Okay,
So
there were a
yes.
couple of spots where,
that would have to be code enforcer now, yes.
yeah, if it's already done, then it's wrong, then it's the code enforcer.
Right, if they're asking to put up a new fence, it's the building inspector, but if it's a fence that's already existing, the code enforcer deals with that.
Okay, so then that would need to be changed.
So pretty much any place that says building inspector, we'd have to look for a code enforcer.
Yeah, there's another one in 8.103, first paragraph, second line from the bottom.
Right,
Building, yeah.
correct.
And there's one on excavations and holes. So we could just search for that and,
Correct.
right.
You can tell it's been a while since we started going over these, because my notes for the first time we went through 8 says have Dennis give his input
I know,
on that section 8.103.
yeah, no.
So, yeah.
Well, I would like to, I get a lot of phone calls, if you look at, page 8.8-2, I'm sorry, Mike, let me get your book.
All right. Thanks, babe.
Here's on my desk, that'll work for you, look at. It tells you what kind of, how high of each kind of fence you can have in each part of your yard. A person that lives on a corner lot has 2 front yards,
Right.
okay? So by definition, and except for drawing it, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, we draw it.
Now you put the camera on your artwork?
Nope. So here's their lot. Okay, I have 2 roads here, one here and one here. Their house sits here. By definition, if they want to put up anything taller than a 3-foot fence, it has to be back here and back here.
Flush with the house lines.
Correct, because this is all the front yard and this is all the front yard.
Right, you can't privacy fence your front yard.
Not even privacy fence. You can't put up a 4-foot chain link fence by our current ordinance.
Right.
Now, I understand the privacy fence.
Right.
I'm having a very hard time explaining to people a 4-foot cyclone fence. Because a 4-foot cyclone fence is not sight blocking.
Well, and I've seen them. I think
Don't go
probably
there.
grandfather. No,
They're not
sorry, I was gonna say
supposed to
there,
be.
some have them already.
I will tell you that 2 months ago, because I took 3 phone calls in a day, I left work and for 45 minutes I drove through the subdivision.
I
35 yards with illegal fences in them.
can picture.
Almost every corner that has a fence, it's illegal. So, our ordinance currently says that they can't put up anything but 3 foot in a front yard. Cyclone, 3 foot period. Can't put a privacy fence at all. Personally, I don't see a problem with a cyclone fence, a 4-foot cyclone fence,
Right.
because it's not sight blocking.
Right.
That's my personal opinion. So, it's kind of up for discussion.
I
And
was gonna say, what if they have a pool? Don't they have to have a fences or an ordinance?
no, they do
Yes.
not.
I thought they did.
Nope, nope, you do not. There are other safety measures that you can use in place of a fence. An in-ground pool has to have a fence, but even at that,
A removable
So
ladder.
I would
Yeah, I was gonna say you can use
a
a removable.
a foldable, lockable
Yeah.
ladder.
Lock.
If this was their house, I'd tell them their pool would have to be back here if they want a 4-foot fence. They couldn't put their pool here.
Right.
They would have to go here, because they have to have, this is where their 4-foot fence could go. So, by our current ordinance. So, I have a hard time explaining to people why they can't put up a cyclone fence, because it isn't sight blocking. Not saying it's right or wrong, it's what our ordinance says. I never asked the planner, I can tell you Macomb Township's ordinance is the same way though. So,
It has to do with the way you don't want people coming all the way up to your sidewalk and having chain link fences. It's unsightly a little bit, I think. 4 feet, 4
That
foot
might
tall.
be, okay, but they could put up a 3-foot cyclone fence.
Right, if you're gonna allow
So-
3 foot.
Truly, if you're gonna allow a cyclone fence in the front yard,
Do cyclones come in 3 foot?
they do, they cost you twice as much as
I
the
was gonna
4-foot
say,
fence.
by making it 4 foot, you've eliminated the possibility of cyclones.
You can, it's much more expensive.
Right, you're gonna, yeah.
And again, I'm bringing this up because it's what I deal with
Mm-hmm.
regularly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I totally understand the privacy fence, because that is
Right.
completely site blocking.
Yeah.
I can see saying you can put a cyclone fence, but you can't weave it with the vinyl or whatever. It's not how some of them, you
Right.
can put the weave through there,
Right.
so it blocks
thing,
some.
right.
I can see saying that that's not allowed. I don't, from my job point of view, it's hard for me to explain
Totally.
the fence.
So we just said that recently where they wanna do it in the park, would put the weed through the fence.
Which they can do it because it's their, well, I shouldn't say we said they couldn't do it, but if that was their fence, they
Yeah.
could do it because it's their backyard.
Right. But
Right.
that's our fence, so they can't do it.
Correct. We told them they couldn't do it because it's our fence.
That's our fence.
Right,
By
But
the
if
park
that-
there.
right.
Okay.
So I don't, and I don't know, to me, if you want to block the site, you're not gonna put up a cyclone fence as a rule
It's
anyway.
more for like animals, like say, or kids to be kept
Mhm.
safe.
Kids.
Right.
But I will tell you, in the last 2 years, we have made, well, the last little bit longer on the one, 2 different people take down or move the fence that they erected because it was higher than 3 feet in a front yard on a corner. So when we catch them, we enforce it, but
We're obviously not catching them very well.
we don't catch, well, some of those fences were up here before I was. And a fence does not technically require a building permit. We don't require a building permit. We do ask that you fill one out to make sure you comply. But if I don't catch the missed dig ticket that says they're going to install a fence, then I don't catch to tell the code enforcer to watch for that fence, or I don't think to drive home that way to
Right.
say, oh, they're not putting it where they're supposed to put it.
Well, and with houses selling fat, like how many of these are
Correct.
grandfathered in, and it doesn't, like the frontage requirements, there are so many homes that won't meet the frontage requirements if you
Correct.
drive through the village.
And
so-
truly, this ordinance has been in place for a long time, so
Right.
most of those fences probably should have not been allowed, but they weren't
Right.
caught. How do I now go back to those 30 people? That fence probably been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Is there a, what do you call that, after it's been up so long that it's,
We do not.
Grandfather.
grandfathered in?
We,
Non-conforming.
well, so on that note, if something happens, and I have one going on right now, there is a 6-foot privacy fence on a corner it's not a corner, it's on the side. It's not site blocking because it's not all the way up to the corner,
Mhm.
but it's technically located in her front yard. So the wind knocked down 3 out of 6 panels. By ordinance, she can replace those 3 panels with like material. So she can put up a 6-foot privacy fence to replace those 3 panels. She wants to take the whole fence down and put up a 4-foot cyclone fence. You can't do that.
Mm.
She wants to put up all new 6-foot privacy
Can't do that
fence.
either.
She can't do that either.
Mm-mm.
She can repair what's existing, but she can't replace. When she replaces, she has to abide by current ordinances.
Right.
Unfortunately for her, she came to the office to ask.
I was gonna say, what about offering special permits for people who come in with, like, like anything else, we might offer a special permit. If you come in with a plan for a fence that's aesthetically pleasing and would do everyone good, why would we stop you?
Because whose opinion are you going to use for aesthetically pleasing?
Right.
My aesthetically pleasing might not be Sam's or yours.
So you have, well.
I hate wood. I
The
hate
4
wood.
foot fence covered it for me, like you can't have it be 4 foot, that eliminates most cyclone fencing from
And
front yards.
truly as a homeowner, and I went through this with something else we talked about, I don't want my neighbor to be able to tell me what I can put up.
That's
So,
what's hard
if
about
you
it.
put it in an ordinance, it's kind of black and white and everybody's being applied across the board. Then there's no, the planning commission, or the building inspector this year is this guy and he doesn't care. And the building inspector next year is this guy and he's a real stickler. So, to keep the uniformity, the,
Right.
Objectivity.
yes.
So the 2 front yard, what about if they were allowed to use one of their front? What if they could select one as long as it was not site blocking and make that not, you can't have it on both faces of your front yard. You may choose one.
Yeah,
and not the face that your front door is or something. You know, I mean, you could get very specific so that they would have because I know exactly what situation you're talking about.
Well, see, they can't, like, there is one that has it that actually comes up a little bit here and then goes over this way.
Right.
Well, that's in 2 front yards.
Mm-hmm. No, it would have to be flush on one side and then, yeah, I know what you mean, but like, it stinks for people who have 2 front yards, especially if they don't have a sight blocking issue.
And truly, my only question, because I can explain away everything else, it's just the 4-foot cyclone fence. The ordinance specifically says chain link has to be 3 feet in the front yard, 4 feet in the side or the rear.
Right.
So, if you look at the house here at the corner of Burke and Prospect in the southeast corner, that was several years ago, but she had put up a whole 6-foot privacy fence. And we caught her and she was livid. My dog can jump a 3-foot fence and just stupid, that's gonna, all kinds of stuff. But we made her do it because that's what the ordinance said. It's really kind of a cute fence. Totally nothing but appearances because it's not gonna keep a kid in the yard and it's not gonna keep a dog in the yard.
Right.
But it is kind of cute. So to say that it's gonna automatically be ugly isn't fair either because it is very cute. It's just, and it's just what I deal with. So I don't know, again, the planner might be able to suggest, the planner might say this is why it's like this, because it's obviously, there's a reason, because like I said, even Macomb Township has it, that my son lost 1/3 of his yard on a corner lot in Macomb Township because he had a cyclone fence. So it was the dumbest design fence. In fact, I said, who designed this stupid fence? So if there's a reason, none that I can see because it's not sight blocking. I don't know what anybody else's opinions are and why, if you guys think you'd rather not have a cyclone fence because you consider them unsightly, that's fine. We can keep them 3 feet, but even an ornamental fence has to be 3 feet.
Well, and the people who want these aren't asking to do like the unsightly version of the chain link all the way around the front to your front. They're asking because they're in a unique situation where so much of the property they own is frontage. So that's why,
Which most people would not think of when they buy a house on the
no,
corner.
you don't.
You don't think that that's a lot of sidewalk to blow the snow off of either?
Right, yeah,
I know.
right.
That's true.
So, all right, so
So-
let's put that to the planner, find out what they say, if there's a specific reason why most communities go 3 foot. But let's find out what they have to say about that, and we'll go with that on our next meeting.
Don't turn the page yet.
Okay.
In our earlier discussion, way back when Ben DeLucky was still here, one of the things we had questioned was a fence along a driveway.
Oh, yeah.
Because we didn't require it set back, in his opinion, far enough, or that it had to be short enough. Back then, the suggestion was that the fence had to be set back at least 20 feet, and it couldn't be any higher than 30 inches. That is also, again, for a visibility thing. Just the setback, because you figure the setback doesn't go from the sidewalk, it goes from the edge. So if you have a green belt, then you have a sidewalk. If you have much less than 20 feet, you're gonna be right, you
have
could
to
be able to
have
put it up
lots of
pretty
clearance
close.
before you get to this.
It's just the suggestion we had way back when.
Yep, I didn't make notes on that one, but I do remember us talking about that.
Yay, nay,
Yes,
good
any
idea.
comments?
I like the idea of keeping 20-foot clearance before the sidewalk for having it, but you're also governed by, there's some pretty short front yards out there.
Well, then you can't put you shouldn't have your fence that far out your front yard.
Right, yeah,
And
it's totally,
truly,
yeah.
that, to me, that's kind of unsightly. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Like, we go back to what we find aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
So, too far, a fence kind of looks kind of silly because you almost look like you're putting a
Right.
stockade.
Barricade all the way
Yeah.
around your
So-
property.
And it creates a hazard, I agree, though, in a neighborhood where you're gonna deal with lots of foot traffic like that, it's a hazard to not be able to see. And you're backing out.
And the suggestion was even applying it to living fences. back then. So if you were to put up bushes or, arborvitae's or
You
something.
can't see.
Because you
Yes, I
truly,
agree
you
with
can't, I mean, most cars, you're sitting up high enough to see over the 30 inches, but, other than that, it starts, arborvitae's get 6 foot.
Yeah.
7 foot, so
Yeah.
you can't, you get some of those growing and they grow around and they're not trimmed as often as they should be, then suddenly you can't see.
At my old house on Torrey, right between me and that big open lot, there's the row of pines that comes up and it meets the sidewalk. And when I would back out of my driveway, clear as day on that side, but I would always have to stop and brake hard and look because there'd always be a kid just right on the other side of that pine tree as you're backing out. So I agree with you, 20 feet away from the sidewalk for sure. As far as you'd have to look at each unique situation to see if a fence would be appropriate. I know you can't hand pluck based on opinion, but so
Well, that would even apply to the commercial buildings.
Okay.
Any of those, right now we don't have a requirement, so when we tell them they have to put up some sort of a barrier, sometimes they, do too much of a line. Well, I understand their point, they're doing the whole property thing, but if you still have to be able to see around stuff, so.
So would we add it to like to this little chart here, we just put driveway?
I'd have to ask him, I guess, but see how they have, where they have height and location requirements to, well, I don't know, ask them where it would be best, or make it a D, under A, B, C.
D.
Yeah, you could do a D.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all within that 20 foot.
Is there a particular instance this is pertaining to, like where I could go look at this, just to wrap my mind around what somebody's asking to do, or this is just very general still?
Very general
Okay.
because it came up.
That's what I was wondering. Is like I would have if I had a visual of a particular situation, I might.
Krause's old vet.
Okay. They want to put a fence up that
They
driveway.
did.
Gotcha.
When Susie's Bed and Breakfast or Bark and
yeah.
whatever was going to go in there,
Uh-huh.
she wanted a different fence.
Right.
And even with what's there, one of the neighbors wanted a different fence, but
Gotcha.
the problem was the whole site thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because the fence she wanted just didn't work at all, did it?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
Man, that's been a while since we went through that one.
What do they do with that Doc Cross's old?
It's
driveway?
a medical supply.
Oh, is it medical supply?
Yeah, it's an online, they just
Yeah,
process the
no foot
orders,
traffic.
they don't,
Oh, okay.
they don't ship from there, but
Okay, anybody else?
under, sorry. On page A3 on the very top, under
Yes.
repairs, where it says repairs to an existing fence with no structural changes. I would like to put some sort of a definition, meaning repair is less than 50% replacement or something.
I thought that was in here.
It's
somewhere.
not.
It's
You want to
not.
put an addendum?
I've looked everywhere. Okay,
So we need a
because
definition put in here.
So you can
that's again, those
repair
are
a
the calls
fence.
that I get. So they say, well, what defines a repair? Well, then I'll leave one little panel up. Yeah, no, that's not in spirit, that's not what it was meant. So I would like to have it defined and pick a number. I mean, what do we think is fair? 50% of the fence, 75% of the fence, what do we do?
And 50%.
I'm missing the question because if you're repairing it, aren't you like bringing it back to how it was prior to being damaged in the
That's
first
not
place?
defined either. You can repair a fence.
Okay,
So let's say somebody's got a fence along the back and up the side. So they're gonna repair this piece, but now they're gonna repair it and put in a 6-foot privacy fence that was a chain link, but it was one all chain link fence. So in their mind, this is a repair. In our mind, that's a replacement of the fence on
They're
that side.
changing the type of fence.
So
Yeah,
would
so
you
I-
say similar type material?
Well,
As an
if you're
addendum?
repairing, right.
You would use the same
And
material?
it does say with no structural changes, but
Right.
people
Right.
are saying, I'm
Yeah.
not changing the structure, it's still a fence.
Right.
So,
That's where I'm kind of a little bit fuzzy here.
Maybe
Material,
not structural
Structural or
changes.
material changes?
material,
Material
Would-
changes
would
might
make
be a
it-
better word, or
yeah.
material.
material.
Because a structural change is like, well, it fell over, I have to fix that post,
Right.
that's a structural change, but
Right.
I agree, material change.
It's not, that's not a change, it's a repair, if you're putting back what it was
Right,
there.
right, but yeah, but what you replace it with, saying you have to keep the same material.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I'm fine with that, yep.
So what did we decide on?
50%, I thought. Was-
Repairs of less than 50%
Yep,
with no structural or material changes?
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. 8.102, anybody?
Yep.
I got notes on that one from us last time
Yes.
too.
We have a part in there that says that, sidewalks, let's see, sidewalks shall be required in all zoning districts along street right-of-ways and to connect public sidewalks with building entrances.
Okay.
Our suggestion last time was that the planning commission may deviate, somehow word it so that it's at the planning commission's discretion to require that. And that came up when, with Vinkiers.
Yeah.
Because there is no place, other than going right through the middle of the parking lot, to put a sidewalk from Main Street to the building entrance.
Mhm.
But the planning commission required it. Or we didn't make them because
You can't.
Wasn't feasible.
it truly wasn't feasible. There's no safe way to do it, but if we had,
Main Street or Fulton Street?
Main Street,
Because can't you just straddle Armada Armory?
but that juts like this with,
It goes
then you're
right
cutting
into
into
the
the parking lot
barber shop.
and you don't have enough room to put a 6-foot sidewalk and leave the driveway and the propane tanks there.
Her fence already got backed into recently once. I would imagine trying to squeeze a sidewalk in there would make it even worse.
Oh, the lady that, what did she drive off the bank parking lot, or did she go from Vinkiers up the bank
No, she
parking
drove
lot?
off the bank. Yeah. So, again, it's just that to allow us the option to, if it's not in the best interest, or if it's a safety issue, or to allow the planning commission the ability to, it's a great idea, because in reality, you do want people to be able to get from, especially in a small downtown, you're gonna hope that you have foot traffic.
It's ideally to keep them safe as well, while,
Correct.
rather than
Right,
having
correct.
people and their kids running through the parking lot, you have a walkway.
So
for
if you
them.
just added something on the end that said, except where, blah, blah.
Yeah, some wording that allows the planning commission to.
Except
Yeah.
where unfeasible due to
Yeah.
current property structure.
Based on planning
yeah.
commission,
Judge recommendation.
yeah, something
Yeah.
like
So
that.
I'll just, I think the regular planner's back to work now. Not that there was anything wrong with the girl, but Brian, I think, is back from his maternity leave, so he's real good about coming up with ways to phrase stuff like that.
Okay, that's a good
So it
idea.
sounds like we're all in agreement on that one.
Mhm.
Let's go to 8.103. That was where I had my little Dennis notes.
Yeah, and I don't remember,
I don't remember why we wanted it either, but we wanted Dennis's input on that. Okay, chapter 2 of section 8, natural features, section 8.201. Let's just go through, anybody got anything on page 8-4?
You know, my question, this is not really, is these, I didn't know how to judge how loud these things were on this chart.
Yeah, we don't either.
Because so I started just looking up, like, if I could compare it to something I know, like motorcycles that are 95 to 110, or a hairdryer 60 to 95, then I can put that in sort of, some
I'll
sort of-
ask if they have something that they can say your average motorcycle is.
Yeah, for example, this is this much, everybody knows what that's like, so that, I put how to conform to everyday experience. Telephone rings at 80 decibels.
Yeah, this is measured at what point?
at any property line or street right of way adjacent to the use.
But I mean, is there a uniform 3 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet?
No, it's adjacent, it's at any property line. So they wouldn't do it at 3, the point is, it might be that loud at 3 feet, but if my house is 100 feet away, I can't complain if it's loud at 3 feet, but it's not at 100 feet.
Because that would be the one area where I can see there's going to be some contention where someone's like, well, you measured it at this decimal at, or this decibel at this distance, but if you go this distance out, the sound level is going to be decreased by, you know, so
It will,
much.
but to Sam's point, the phone is gonna ring right here by you. So you can say the average phone rings at, or house phone, which they don't have anymore, rings at 40 decibels. So you know that that's right here, so you have an idea of just how loud that phone ringing would be. Or the average hair dryer, when you blow dry your hair, you know that that's about how loud it is. Well, that motorcycle's still gonna be that loud 100 feet away. Is that good or bad or ugly? So it's not necessarily that you're worried what the hair dryer is gonna sound like at 100 feet away, just so you can say that that's how loud the hair dryer
Some
is.
sort of comparison.
Right, just so you know, I agree with her, I don't know how loud is 55 decibels, what would
It
50?
does, well, I looked up a bunch of them. Rain is 50 decibels, thunder's 120. These seem really low then, but.
You can't even play music according to us.
Right.
Right, like a
My
whisper is
neighbors
30
don't.
decibels, normal conversation is 60 decibels. This is from the Center for Hearing and Communication, .org.
Well, and I can ask them too, are those the current standards?
Yeah, that could be,
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm on 8.4. I had meant to there seems to be a word missing on 8.203.
There is, the word
Yes.
B.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I had it written and I checked it and I forgot to mention it. I'm sorry.
That's right.
okay.
We also put in that we wanted explanation on the setback sentence. Such setbacks shall be measured from the top of the bank or other defined edge and shall not be subject to topography. I don't remember why, but we wanted a better explanation of that sentence.
Why would the top of the bank not be topography?
So we want a definition there.
You should see people when I pull my book out, when they come in and ask you a question on this.
Oh, I know, I was just looking at mine
All
with
my
my
papers.
highlighters and pens and paper. Okay, so it sounds like we went through 8.5 as well. Are we ready to jump into page 8? Well, we might as well do 8.6 and 8.7. What do we got on there? Okay, so that takes care of section 8. I am not going to assign reading for the next meeting because I am hoping that we will have all the rest of 4, 5, 6, and possibly 8, 7, and 8 back. So we will go over those, make sure that those are ready for print, and then we'll begin the reading again.
Okay.
I didn't write it.
Okay, I have nothing to report. Anybody have anything you'd like to add to the meeting at this point?
I have nothing.
Nothing.
All right then. At 7:58, I'm calling for a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn, 7:58.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're out.